All right, what is happening, guys? I'm so happy to freaking be back to doing the podcast again. Look, this is going to be short and sweet. I'm going to tell you why I took a break. I'm going to tell you why I am doing this podcast right now. I'm going to go over a bunch of stuff in this show. So, number one is we recorded a podcast 2 nights ago, Heather and I thought it was really good while we were doing it. And then upon review of the podcast, while I'm editing it and trying to make clips and stuff, I put one clip out on Instagram already. I uploaded it to YouTube, but it didn't ever go public. I decided that I really did not like the podcast. This was the first podcast that I ever uploaded and decided, nah, I don't think it's a good idea. I'm not going to put it out. And to be frank with you guys, it's because it was kind of negative, a little bit negative. And not that I don't think that there's a time and place to like have opinions that could be negative or contrary to like a public opinion or anything like that, because obviously my podcast is very controversial in nature in terms of like, I don't hold a lot of the cultural opinions. That's why it's called the counterculture, right? But I just decided that this one was better left not put out. And in there, I talk about how I don't like drama, how I don't want to be a part of like CrossFit drama specifically. And then I actually like talk a little bit of shit towards the end about someone in particular. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. If the opportunity ever arises for this person and I to actually have a conversation or talk, that's different. But I don't want to be one of those people feeding into the going back and forth on the internet. That's just not the type of person that I am. That doesn't align with my values, really. So, I decided to not release that podcast for those specific reasons. We recently took a break from posting, and part of me was really upset with myself and down over the fact that I did not post for an entire week. I started thinking like, wow, yeah, you're not consistent. Like, you're kind of a loser. Like, why would you take a week off? Why do you need a break? And then I kind of came back and realized that, whoa, a lot of this like hustle culture stuff is kind of toxic in the way that like I took a break for a week off the podcast after over a year of every single week posting at least one video a week, if not up to 3 videos a week. I took a break because I have proven to myself that I am consistent and I am allowed to take breaks if I feel like I am just posting content for the sake of posting content rather than actually adding value to people's lives. And that's what it started to feel like, was that I was just posting for the sake of posting rather than posting because I felt like I could add value to somebody. And that's not a position that I really ever want to be in. I really think that when you are trying to do this type of thing, the thing that I'm trying to do, which is, be an internet personality and like try to put stuff out to help people, that there should be the end goal of adding value to someone's life and being able to help, whether that means that it's like comedic relief, or you give somebody entertainment for the day, or you motivate them, or you give them advice, like helping them through something. There has to be something there. I never want to just be one of those people that's like helping people just like drown out the noise type thing, right? In terms of just posting mindless, brainless stuff that doesn't give you anything to work with. And so that was a main reason why I took a break for a week, was because I just didn't feel like the content was doing anything. And I needed to really take a step back to decide and understand what I wanted to be posting, what I wanted to be recording, who I wanted to have on the show, things of that nature. And something that I had been avoiding for a long time was doing CrossFit content. And the reason, I'm not going to get into too many specifics about why I decided to stop doing like CrossFit centric stuff, but basically I didn't want to pigeonhole myself. I didn't want to only be a CrossFit podcast. And the other thing that comes along with like the CrossFit world is that I'm not really bought into the methodology the way that a bunch of people are bought into the methodology, in terms of I'm not going to go to bat for CrossFit over nothing. Me personally, I'm very passionate about I am very passionate about fitness, health, and well-being. And I think that so many different things can be a part of that formula, and that CrossFit is not the end all be all. Although I really, 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 really love CrossFit, and I love doing CrossFit because it keeps me engaged, and it's the most engaging form of exercise that I have personally done in a long time. And that's the reason that it got me hooked, and that's the reason why I stay with it, even though I'm training for something that is not CrossFit. But I'm not bought into it the same way that a bunch of people are bought into it. And what I started to notice was that there's a lot of drama surrounding CrossFit, and I'm just really not that guy. I will hop on, when we do our lives, I'll hop on and we'll talk about like what's the drama in CrossFit. I let people update me, and then I kind of give my opinions, and I do ask for more, and I want to kind of know more. But at the same time, I don't want to be one of those people that's getting involved in what the CrossFit drama is, because I'm not invested enough in it. So it's not really important to me. What's important to me personally when it comes to health and wellness, again, and it's my opinion that this should be like most coaches and most fitness professionals concern, should probably be just to get more people invested in their health and wellness, fitness, and moving, losing weight, adding more muscle, and just overall being healthier people. That is my main concern, and that's really what I think is being missed, right? That's what the mark that I think is being missed. And although I do think that like a lot of the CrossFit content is funny, right? Like I love to watch Andrew Hiller's stuff, and he's actually been very good to us in terms of like shouting out the podcast. And I love watching Sivan's podcast and stuff. I think that's their thing, right? It's not my thing. But albeit, right, all that being said, I am going to start leaning back into CrossFit because I do love the community of CrossFit. And I realize that just because I may have, part of my show in the CrossFit sphere, that doesn't mean that I have to do all of those other things. Like I don't have to talk to athletes about their clean and jerk, their snatch, their PRs and all this stuff. I don't have to talk to them about the drama in CrossFit, what's going on with HQ and all these different things. I can just do what I normally do with other people, which is talk about business or talk about like how have you built your following or what was your childhood like where do you get your mentality from, all that stuff, the stuff that I did in the beginning, and I just kind of lost somewhere along the way. And I don't really know why I felt like I got lost with that. It just kind of happened. So that's basically the long short of that, is that, yeah, I'm going to be leaning back into doing some CrossFit content, probably weekly, and then having my other shows weekly as well, because I am a person that's interested in so many different things. And that was one of like a big reason why taking this break gave me a lot of clarity, is understanding like I am interested in so many things. I'm just one of those people that has my brain is on so many things all the time, in terms of I love health, wellness, fitness, but I love like actual health and wellness as well. Like, stuff about alternative medicine and biohacking, things like that. And then drugs. I like drug culture, even though I'm not like super in, like I don't do drugs, in terms of steroids and stuff. I like to hear about it and what are the mechanisms that they work by, and what are the physiological responses, and what are the mechanisms that actually happen to produce results using drugs. And I'm also very into music. I'm very into art and all these different things. Like I have so many interests, right? Skateboarding, everything. So, so we're going to be doing shows on like basically everything, entrepreneurial shows and like mindset shows and things of that nature. So taking that week off gave me a lot of clarity to understand like, hey, you don't have to pigeonhole yourself, but you should feed the audience and what they want. Like feed what you like. You're in that space anyway. You might as well put your own twist on it, basically, is what I'm saying. So that's that. I don't know how many points I've hit already. I'm just going to kind of spurg on this and then, keep going. So I'm very interested in all that. I'm interested in masculinity. I'm interested in like dating dynamics. I'm interested in, sociological things, right? Like, and politics, somewhat religion, I'm very invested in right now. So these are all things that I want to bring to this show. Another thing is that, and this is just me being totally real and totally honest, and it's something that actually Heather told me that she thinks that I should be more honest about and be real about, is that I have gone through a really rough period of time the past 2 years, 3 years, to be honest with you. I've talked about a bunch of this stuff a lot, but I think that I never really processed it until recently, because thing after thing after thing after thing kept happening. And by no means do I want this to sound like victim-y or that I am, I just don't want to sound like a victim, because I'm totally not. But the past few years have been like really difficult. I've had thing after thing after thing after thing happen. And it wasn't until recently that I was actually able to just kind of like accept that these things have happened and tell myself that you need to move on. You need to come up with solutions and figure it out and just push forward. You get to acknowledge your feelings and you get to acknowledge that bad things have happened to you the past few years, but that does not mean that you get to be stagnant. It also doesn't mean that you get to just ignore what has happened, because the more that you ignore what has happened, the further back you're going to push yourself, because you're just going to drown yourself in work, and eventually it's going to catch up, and eventually you're going to feel like total shit about it. So acknowledge what happened and then work through what happened and move on. And I really didn't do that. And I think so often in this space, motivational speaker or the motivational talkers of this, this world and of the social media world, they'll try to sit there and tell you like, you just need to be hard through everything. You need to be tough through everything. F your feelings, F this, F that. I put a clip out like this, and never acknowledge what you're going through. Just ignore it and keep going. To be honest with you, I don't think that works in real life. I have done that a lot throughout life. And I've noticed, at least for me, yeah, it works for a little bit until it doesn't. And then you just kind of get in a slump, right? And you build these unrealistic expectations of yourself that you can't actually hold long term, And the reason why you can't hold them long term is because you start to gather all this weight, and you're gaining all this weight on your shoulders, and you never release it. And then eventually it becomes too much until you finally break. And then it's like akin to like if you're a kickboxer, right? And you don't actually like condition your shins, and like maybe you sprain your shin or something. You keep kicking a bag, expecting to just get harder and harder and harder. But instead, one day it just completely breaks, and now you're out for like 6 weeks because you have to heal this. And that's something that I don't ever want to happen. Like, I am very much so a person that works off of momentum and needs to keep going. Absolutely. But I also realize how important it is to like kind of sit with what has happened and work through it. So that's another thing. I just haven't really been myself for a few weeks. Thankfully, I got diagnosed with mold toxicity. So I understood why a lot of my health issues and my injuries were happening. And now we've started to detox that, and it's beginning to be fixed, and I can actually feel the effects of getting better, which is amazing because my mood is better. My body feels better. My metabolism is better because I'm not like, just all these different things, which is amazing. So we've addressed one part of it. The next part is like finances. To be totally real with you guys, have to address the finance stuff. Like, again, I don't want this to sound any sort of way like we are not broke by any means. We are totally fine. But when I closed the gym, I had to pay a lot of money to get out of my gym. And for those 2 years that I had my gym, I spent a lot of money in my gym. And before that, I was making really good money and, over the 6-figure mark. And then to take a price cut or an income cut, I was willing to do to run my gym because I could see the future of it. But then obviously some things happen with friends, business partners, all this stuff, and immediately or leading me to have to close the gym eventually. And I've finally been able to accept that the gym failed rather than trying to cope about it and say it didn't fail. All these things happen, plus the podcast, blah, 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 blah. At the end of the day, it failed. All these things might be true, but still failure was a thing. And something that's really hard for me personally is to accept failure, because I think that I have this expectation of myself that whatever I set my mind to, I can achieve. And although I do absolutely believe that, and I believe that everybody can achieve anything that they set their mind to, it is a fact in life that things can get in the way, and things can take you away from your goals, and things can absolutely deter that goal or make it not happen. Not everything is within your control. I think that absolutely you should take responsibility over everything in your life. Like, you made the choice to do X thing, but that doesn't mean that everything that happens within that time that you've done it is up to you. Not everything happens, because of you. Sometimes things do happen to you. But that's also not to say that everything that happens because of you is happening to you. You should definitely be able to take responsibility for most things. And so, yeah, so recouping finances has been something that I've had to figure out. And so it's been, again, I still make decent money, but the thing that is trippy to me is I grew up in poverty. I didn't grow up with any money. Okay. And I know, I'm not going to get too far into that, but I grew up with no money, like very, very broke. Okay. And so going from like making a bunch of money in quotes to me, right, which was over 6 figures, to then having to make significantly less and then have to spend a bunch of money to get out of a business, to me felt like building back up from ground zero. And really it's starting from like square 5 or 6, because we're not like, the income that I make now is not like terrible by any means. I'm still very blessed. But to me, it's been like a hard thing to deal with, because when I was making 6 figures, when I was making a bunch of money, I didn't know anything else besides shit. I didn't know anything else besides a poorer quality of life. And then I made 6 figures and it was like, oh, this is really cool, but like, this doesn't feel like, it feels good, but I don't see how anything could ever get bad, right? Because the only thing that I had to compare where I was at then was where I was at before. And now, again, kind of the same situation where I have been poor, but I've also had really good money. And then now I'm like, in the middle, I'm like in the middle. And that has been something very hard for me to deal with. And the only reason why I'm like sharing about this and getting specific about this is because I feel like a lot of people actually do get in the same circumstance that I'm in right now, where you have to figure out how to build back better or build back up. And you might have the same feelings that I have, which is like, kind of like, oh, I don't really know what to do. What's going to happen? You're kind of unsure. You're in this moment of uncertainty, right? But it's my opinion that moments of uncertainty and moments of almost like desperation create the best circumstances for success, because you get to be creative with how you solve your problem. Okay, so something bad is happening. Now you have a million ideas that you can go through your head on how to fix the issue. If you're actually willing to take action, to take time and fix the issue, there's so many different options that you can do, and you have so many things to try, and you don't really have that much to lose, right? And so that's kind of the position that I feel like I'm in. Like it's daunting almost emotionally, and like it feels bad. But then at the same time, it's like, oh, this is actually really exciting, because now I get to explore the world again. I get to figure things out. Like, I'm not stuck in a position right now where I'm making good money, like to the point where like, oh, I shouldn't stop this because it's really like starting to feed me. It's like, oh, now I have the option to be like, okay, I'm doing pretty good, but like, what are some other options that I can explore and move into, like dip my toes into? So I thought that's the reason why I feel like it's worthwhile sharing this type of stuff. Ultimately, the things that I want to do the most are the podcast and content. Obviously, these are grinds, they're hustles, they're things that you need to work on every single day. And I'm no stranger to hard work. I'm no stranger to working every single day on the thing that you want to happen. It's just, this is one of the things, to be honest with you, that has taken the most time for me to get pretty good at. And I think part of the reason that it's taken a lot of time for me to get pretty good at is because I don't do a lot of these where I'm just talking and relating and, telling you guys like, hey, this is what I'm going through. This is the real, here it is, and I think that that's something that has been missing from this podcast, from this show. So yeah, what else? Some other things that have been going on in our life is we bought a house, which is really cool. But again, that's kind of daunting too, because the house is fairly expensive. And, but again, it puts me in this position of like, I need to figure this out. This podcast started out with the intention of talking about entrepreneur mindset, talking to different like small businesses or people in the social media space and entrepreneurially minded people, and also mindset. Mindset was a big thing that I am like throughout my entire life. Mindset has been something that I've had to work on. I did suffer with mental illness in the past, like anxiety, depression, things of that nature. And so mindset has been something that I've been very passionate about. And I do believe that your mindset can change everything. The way that you can teach your mind to think and to bend and to become callous and to work through things so that you're stronger the next time something hard happens, that's something that I'm very passionate about and that I think that a lot of people are missing in life. But one of my issues with talking about that stuff as of recently has been the circumstances that I have gone through and how I have felt. And it made me feel kind of like an imposter trying to tell other people to be, hard-headed and like run through the wall, run your head through the wall and keep going. When personally, I didn't feel like I was doing as much as I could have done in that realm. So it almost gave me imposter syndrome, which again, I think is okay. And there is a level of fake it until you make it. But I'm a person that doesn't like to lie. And I know that like this is content and this is, I don't know how to say it. It's for people. I'm trying to add value to people, but I also don't want to be untruthful or feel like I'm lying because that is a value that I hold very dear. I don't want to lie. And I think that there is a fine line of like, me showing you guys like, hey, this is where I'm at right now. And I'm practicing what I preach, and me just never telling you guys that I go through shit too. And then just being like, do all these things because you should, I think that there's a little bit something wrong with that. And so, yeah, guys, that's basically the update here. Things are going good though. Overall, things are going really well. I'm getting my health back, which is really good. My injuries are starting to go away because my health, and all that stuff. I've finally been able to process all the things mostly that have gone down the past 2 to 3 years, which is really good and a good sign. My mood, I'm in bright spirits. I'm happy. I'm healthy. I'm super motivated. I never really lose motivation. That's a good thing about me, I guess, is that I don't really lose motivation because I can always see the big picture. I can always see the future. And so that's something that I am just like, okay, we took our break. We took our little time off and we got clear about what we want to do. We're going to be a little bit more honest about how life is going and also be able to motivate people because we're being honest about how life is going and all the things that we have dealt with and been through in this stuff. And show people like, hey, we really practice what we preach over here. We don't just be talking shit, So yeah, I think that's, at least that's how I want to go about this. And I hope that you guys can relate to this and hopefully enjoy that too. And hopefully you guys get some motivation out of this and hopefully you get some hope if you're going through a tough time or whatever. Just know that all things can be fixed through faith, through God, through hard work, determination, motivation, and momentum, taking one step forward every single day, even if it's one step forward. And if you have to take a couple steps back to go forward, like I just recently did, that's totally fine too, because that doesn't mean that you're never going to make progress just because you have delayed progress by a little bit. Now, by no means, I just want to be clear about this too. Should you sit and mope and whine and cry? I think that you should take full accountability and be able to acknowledge your emotions and acknowledge the things that have happened to you. However, don't just sit in that forever. After you've been able to do that, acknowledge and feel the things, okay, now create a plan to move forward and make some freaking progress. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you did like this podcast. I hope that you liked this video. Hit that like button if you did. Subscribe if you are new. And we'll talk to you guys in the next one. Peace out. Goodbye.